This is only my second time using Zoom, so I don't even know what's going on.
That's amazing.
Second or third, so.
So that's actually recording, and I'm going to put that out as part of the advert. So perfect. Thank you.
Perfect.
Right, here we go. Hi guys, my name's Ian and I'm the head coach at TriClub. And today I've got another couple of guests from the amazing state of California, specifically in San Diego. We've got the owner of Milestone Running Shops, Greg Lemon, and also 2:17 marathon runner. And I think it was his first Olympic trials this year, Dylan Marx. So welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Hey.
It's a privilege to have you guys on the show, so thanks very much for joining me. Now, I don't know which one of you wants to go first, but I've introduced you a little bit, but if you could tell me a little bit about who you are and where you've come from in sport and business, that would be wonderful.
I guess I'll take the lead on this one. So, yep, my name's Greg Lemon. I guess come June is going to be our 8th year anniversary. So we own 2 shops, my buddy Chad and I, and Julie now. And so our original store opened up in a neighborhood called North Park in San Diego. And so, yeah, it'll be our 8th year anniversary come June 1st. And then we were fortunate enough to open up a second location in Pacific Beach. And that one will probably be maybe a year and 7 months come June. And yeah, it's pretty much it. And then, yeah, I've been running since I was a wee lad. Since I was 7 years old, I started running organized track and field. Originally was a sprinter, and as you age, ever so gracefully, your mileage increases. And so now I do distance, I guess. But yeah.
That's great. And the age is caught up with you, like in terms of facial hair. You've got kind of a Ron Burgundy thing going on there. I've
been growing this since I was 17. I have not shaved. So this is.
Oh, man.
Brilliant. And Dylan, who are you?
Yeah, so I'm Dylan Marx here, San Diego native, born and raised. And upon kind of finishing college and doing a little bit of coaching in cross country and track at the collegiate level, I've recently moved back to San Diego. I was up in Utah and Idaho for a few years, but moving back just over a year ago now, I moved back and kind of started up with this whole marathon journey, which has been maybe the most success I've had in my running career. But I ran all the way from high school through college and kind of played around on the trails, and now given a serious shot at the road and road racing. And now in the past 5 months, I've made my marathon debut and followed it up with the second marathon being the U.S. Olympic trials in the marathon, and had some good success there, which I don't know if we'll touch that a little more later, but yeah, one of the, I guess, to brag a bit, one of the top runners in San Diego and in California now. So it's kind of fun, and working at Milestone Running for Greg and Chad and Julie, and it's been an awesome part of this year's training. It's kind of made it happen with the lenience to work my training schedule, maybe optimize it, and be able to put that at the forefront of everything, and then have some kind of income that supports, and also a community there too.
Yeah, it's incredible that Milestone provides that for you, and having experienced that myself, it's an unbelievable community across those shops that you've got, and it was a real privilege to run with yourself as well, Dylan. I realised it was on your easy day, but yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. Now, obviously you've mentioned the Olympic trials. I've got some notes here, so I'm just going to read from these because this is a long question. Tell me about the journey to the Olympic trials, sort of before, during, after the race, the kind of the mix of emotions and thoughts that you were going through, and how you dealt with and processed all of that.
Yeah, so like I said, the last maybe 5 months or so, maybe 6 months now, kind of the qualifying race was in December. So there's there's a lot of what ifs, and surely I had confidence going into that qualifying race, and then getting it done was a huge confidence builder, and that's kind of the yeah, qualifying. You do the thing, and then you're now one of the top. Maybe it was top 200, 300 guys in the country, which is kind of neat with how many 300 million people we have. So that's a huge confidence booster. And then so from then on, the confidence was there, and just a matter of getting the training in. And I tell you, San Diego is a fun city. So there were some later nights that weren't maybe conducive to training or performance, going out and having beers with friends and stuff. Maybe in a way detracts from the performance, but I think like the mental space, as long as you're having a light heart and everything like that, I think training often goes much better if you're not overstressing things. So finding that balance in between December 8th, which was the first marathon, and then the second marathon was due the last day of February. There's a little bit of a down period where you kind of let yourself relax, enjoy the spoils of accomplishing something, and then you get back to work, and it's kind of a short turnaround for marathon blocks. If people are familiar, a lot of people maybe think optimal training plan is maybe up to 16 weeks of a build, but we had that go into maybe 8 to 10 weeks to get ready for this marathon. So probably kept it around maybe 10 weeks, maybe 9 weeks. I started getting serious, and then just that's the beauty of sport is a lot of the times you're ready or not based on kind of what you do. Granted, you're not getting injured. It was kind of, if you show up, you put the work in, it gets done. And then sometimes I don't maybe believe in luck, but sometimes you're fortunate enough to have good friends along the way. And this is once again, I heard Iman reference like BC is before COVID, or BQ before quarantine. But either way, before separation and social distancing, we could get together with a group, and I had maybe slightly cultivated a group of maybe 5 or 6 guys that would get together regularly, that were in the same ballpark of marathon goal times and stuff. So we'd get some good work in, and then actually Greg and his friend John, our friend John, we're out there documenting and shooting some footage, and taking some pictures of us during this, some of our big workouts, which was actually very motivating, because I joke that nobody wants to look bad on camera. And so nobody wants to drop out of a workout on camera. So we actually got some pretty savage workouts in, just purely because we didn't want to drop out. So I think that was a blessing, more so than we expected. And so some of that, it just really was like the perfect storm coming together. And I knew I was fit, and I knew I had a high ceiling. After the first marathon, I came through feeling good, but also felt like there was a lot more in the tank. So it was exciting, almost all pure excitement, not many nerves, and just having a good group coming into, work was coming in, and or I'd come into work, and that was purely more feeding the ego and boosting the confidence. So it was just, kind of maybe doing my part to surround myself with good people, good support from friends and family at home as well. So going into it was just maybe as good as a maybe like an amateur runner could ask for. It was perfect. And then if you want me to keep rambling on into like how the race went, and everything. It was awesome. Had plenty of support to get myself out to the race. Lots of family and friends helped, and we had a fundraiser go on, and Atlanta Track Club hosted the race, and they actually made it a lot easier on a lot of runners to get out there and compete in the trials, which was unprecedented, but it helped a lot of us. So once again, you know, very little stress going into it, which for covering mental health, man, that cushioned a whole lot of us, and it definitely was a relief, and maybe provided the perfect storm for the most fair race day. All of us came in with, you know, a lot of stress off our shoulders as amateurs competing against a lot of, you know, former Olympians or other kind of professional athletes that, you know, maybe had their path already paved for them. You know, they still did the work to get there, but, you know, it's a lot easier to do it when it's not on your own dime. And
Dylan, tell them, say what Atlanta Track Club covered.
Yeah, so Atlanta Track Club, like I maybe glazed over, was a so Atlanta Track Club provided a hotel stay for us as we got out there, and then also a travel stipend for those that chose to share a room. And so I shared with a friend and former college teammate. So we shared rooms, so we got also, you know, half our flight covered, which was, you know, that's incredible to get out there. And then, and then, you know, takes, you know, maybe cuts the price of travel and everything to get out there in half. And then you know, maybe focus on food and a few other things along the way there. So it was incredible, and kudos to them. And I hope that's a new standard for the next U.S. Olympic trials in the future. And so it was incredible. And then they had some meals set up for us, whether it's them or USATF, but there was meals, and we weren't staying in any shabby like hotel. They put us up in a proper hotel, and it was right next to start line. So we got to do a little bit of the course, and we had 2 days where we got to do a little bit of the course. It was a surreal experience, and I've been racing my whole life and had never seen anything, you know, remotely close to that. And I don't know that I've heard of anything like that happen before, where we were so well taken care of. And like I said, again, it was as even of a playing field as we could have hoped for. And I think that's, you know, also a part of where I was able to have a perfect day out there. And kind of going into it, I kind of had mentioned to people, maybe I'm not too shy, so I'll say the same thing to anyone that I just meet on the day. But people I knew, I would tell them maybe top 30, top 40 was kind of would be a great day out there. And so I ended up 35th in the U.S., which is awesome. I came in as 113th ranked, and so ending 35th was a hell of a day. So I don't know. Apologies if we can't curse on here, but it was a great day out there, and it was awesome. We had Julie from Milestone was able to travel out there, and several other San Diegans. My parents were able to make it, and then some other really close friends. Two of my longest and best running buddies were out there, you know. So it was an awesome experience, and just the crowds out there, man. I was thinking maybe there'd be, you know, a few thousand spectators, but I mean it was probably, you know, probably like at least 50,000 people out there lining the streets. And it was on a great loop, so spectator friendly. It was just maybe 10 to 15 people deep along some of the parts of the streets as we came by, and it was a very vocal crowd. So it was I mean, just absolutely perfect storm. If anyone has a chance to go back and look at video, you could even capture some of the essence of the magnitude of it. So it's awesome. And the U.S. is a pretty deep distance running country. So it kind of just showed that day how many men and women were out there to compete. And then just to kind of have a good day on the day, it's one thing to have a good day on a backyard half marathon, but to do it, on the biggest day of the year was pretty rad. And I think 35th, this year puts me in a great spot for 4 years from now. I think there's some people that with similar accolades, that do great, 4 years later that are somewhere in that top 40. So I think kind of like your buddy, your roommate, I think I could be, one of the guys to watch coming up in the future. So
you've definitely got to back yourself, and it sounds like you've done that. And was it Atlanta Track Club that you gave a shout out to there?
Yep, yeah, Atlanta Track Club. Man, they put on a show, so that's awesome. And I had met a few of their representatives while I was out there, but still, I mean, more and more thanks can go out to them.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll make sure that we stick a link up for them when this goes out. And same for USAT as well. I know that's the governing body over there for you guys. So Thanks very much, Dylan. That's really interesting and incredible work for what you've achieved over the years, coming from, working through college, working for Milestone, and obviously producing two 17 runs in your first 2 marathons, which is insane. So well done.
Getting there. Thanks.
No worries. And Greg, now you run Milestone running shops. Tell me a little bit about that, and how you're pivoting at the moment during COVID times to make things work, and also to keep the interest of the runners that you've got as well, because you've got a big running following as well.
I think I'll say to start, I guess, like Chad and I, when we started the company, that sounds really weird, like we're a big corporation. When we started the stores, when we first started the store, honestly, we didn't have much. We didn't have any funding. We got a very small business loan, and we also had one friend, Chad's friend, who backed us a little bit. And the first 2 years, we actually lived on my brother's sofas. And then like just kind of saving up, make sure that we had enough money to keep the store going. And then luckily Julie came up, found us, and she kind of demanded that she worked at the store. And so we were forced to hire her. And she took over. But then from there, we've been able to grow very rapidly, I guess, but like at a comfortable pace. And then with that, we were able to be a little bit more strategic with who we hire. And so we were able to get like amazing people like Dylan, and people that kind of complement our personalities and kind of have our philosophy and bring the same energy, but also different energy, because some of us are way up here, some of us are a little down here, but there's a good balance. And I feel very fortunate to have such like an amazing group of people to work with. So when this whole pandemic started to happen, like our first goal was to just kind of figure out how we could take care of those who work at the store and make sure that, especially those who are relying on us for their entire income or have rent to pay and things like that. And so immediately it was just trying to pivot and figure out like where we can sacrifice, give and take. And we got very lucky. A lot of the brands, so when you buy shoes or inventory, usually you have a 90-day period or 30 to 90-day period to pay your bills. And all the companies reached out to us, and for the most part, were giving us all the running stores an extension. So a lot of our bills weren't due for another 60 to 90 days after that. So that was super helpful. Luckily, we didn't have to take advantage of that. But what we did was, so in California, I think it was early March, stay-at-home orders were placed and non-essential businesses were forced to close. And so we were considered non-essential. But the way that you can get around that is we did curbside and delivery service. We don't have an online website where you can pick and choose and go through our inventory. And so we were kind of nervous to see how that would play out. But it was like, hey, you can text us. You can send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, call us. We'll take any order. You can pick it up from the store. We'll deliver to your house, whatever we can do. And we weren't sure how that was going to play out. But we're just so fortunate to live in a community like San Diego and North Park, because the number of people that reached out to us really quickly to order stuff was really cool. Yeah. So we had a ton of support, and like people just ordering shoes that they definitely didn't need, where like people would order like 2 pairs of shoes and then they'd call back next week and like, hey, can I get another 2 pairs? I'm like, you just ordered. You don't need any more shoes. But like, I don't want to support you guys. I'm like, all right, that's really cool. So we had a ton of stuff like that. Like even there's one woman, I can't remember her name because she messaged us on Instagram, but she immediately ordered 2 pairs of shoes and then like some apparel, and I had never seen her before, and she was like, hey, I just moved out here, but I just like what you guys do. I've heard a lot about you guys and I want to support and make sure you guys are around. So that was just a really good feeling. So yeah.
It shows that you add like a huge amount of value to the community, doesn't it? It's not just about the fact that you're trying to make a profit. That's not what you're about. I know from having spoke to you when I first came out there that you really value people. You know, you want to create community, and that's what you're about. And that's what you've created at Milestone Running Store, isn't it? And tell us a little bit about your running background and the community that you have created out there.
Yeah, I think, I mean, personally, and I think like with our store, it definitely is not so much about, which is going to sound weird because we are a business, but not making like a profit and being some big old conglomerate, you know. It really is like community based. We love to get to know everybody. We do we donate tons of shoes, and we do a lot of things that we don't talk about, I guess, for community based things, and try to kind of stay under the radar with that stuff, but just, I don't know, do the right thing. I feel like is what we always try to do. And I'm lucky to work with Chad and Julie, because it's always an agreement. Like there's never a power struggle of any kind. It's always like, no, that's the right thing to do. Whether it's support our employees the right way or the community or whatever it is. But with that being said, like our biggest, probably most successful thing are our social events. And we tried to make it so it's not just like serious runners where you have to run a 2:17 marathon, Dylan. But like it's, although Dylan did ruin our social run club because all of a sudden all these elite people started showing up and it just became really competitive. And then like everyone was like, I'm too slow to run at their store, and
Never
then
that.
But like on a serious note, our run club is like, it's totally just a social event. We always go out afterwards. Like people will get intimidated. I'm like, it's just a 3 or 5 mile route on our Wednesday run in particular, where we currently, BC, we were averaging like 120 to 150 people every single Wednesday, even throughout a San Diego winter, whatever that means.
Winter.
But,
It's not winter.
It's not winter.
Let's call it spring.
You know, it gets into the 60s at night and it gets wicked cold. Yeah, it's one of those things where people come and I'm like, hey, we're doing a 3 mile route, 5 mile route, you can choose. And then people like who are new to running will kind of freak out. I'm like, you know, you can go out, you can walk, you can run a mile, come back. No one's out there telling you what to do. It's just be here, be with the group, get outside, maybe talk to some people. If you don't feel like talking to anybody, don't. Like, but it's just to get people active. San Diego is a city of transplants, so it's a good way to just meet like-minded people too. But yeah, and my running background is not thrilling like Dylan's. But yeah,
Greg's got some accolades.
Has he? What accolades has he got?
No, I mean, nothing really. Honestly, I just started. I was fortunate. I started running. I was introduced to track and field at 7, and then kind of continued. I loved running track, and then continue. I was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship to run the 200 and 400 at UC Riverside, a smaller Division I school. But luckily when I was there, like Brenda Martinez, who actually made the Olympic team in the 800, she ran there. She was by far our best athlete. And then Chad Hall's younger brother ran with us as well. But I was just a dude.
Ryan Hall's younger brother.
Getting paid to take left turns,
right.
as Brenda would say.
That's really cool. So, I mean, to get a scholarship, you're going to have to be pretty quick. So, in comparison to Usain Bolt's 200-meter time of, what was it, 1919 or something like that, where were you at?
Well, very competitive with him. Very.
I'd still be in the starting block, so you're okay.
Oh.
Now, sorry, carry on.
But yeah, there was a big gap. But luckily, he was able to help pay for some school, and it also just like instilled like my love for running, which is also why we have a store, and then why we can kind of hopefully bring that kind of like spirit and keep, I don't know, that passion alive for running. Yeah.
Obviously, you know this series is about sport and mental health. Would you guys, I don't mind if it's both of you or either of you, sharing your experience to do with sport and mental health, and maybe how running and any sports that you have done have helped you through any sort of tougher times?
Do you want to take this, Dylan, or?
Yeah, I could start. Yeah, certainly. So, like I said, I ran through high school and ran through college, and then now still running. But along the way, there's certainly a fair share of injuries. Kind of high school. High school was maybe several injuries, but mostly kind of success, and nothing too bad. Maybe missed several races at worst, but still had a really good prep career. Good enough, yeah, I was like good enough to look into running in college. And then kind of throughout college, the first half of college was a few injuries here and there, which, I mean, just as an athlete, the last thing you want to do is, miss out on races, and even training is something that we start to miss, and really college athletes, there's this almost this time clock that we're somewhat self-imposed, and depend on the coaches. You get pressure, just from all sides, and it's kind of a trickle-down pressure from the whole school system. It's pretty tough, and maybe not perfect. You got the president of the entire college putting pressure on administration to put pressure on the coaches. Not coach, good coaches know how to weather that, and kind of diffuse some of that pressure, and not just place it on the athletes. But then I think every coach slips up at some time. So some of that pressure, to perform and push through injury was reflected a lot on us a couple of different times in my collegiate athlete career. And so, upon, getting, transferring from junior college where I started, and had a good career, to a 4-year college to finish up, I had a fair amount of struggles with, training and adapting to training, and possibly ramping up and getting excited as it was going so well. I think there's a term we use, like fry yourself, just kind of like the hardwire, it just gets fried, your circuits in your brain, in your morale, whatever that is, your mentality. If you're just not able to weather that storm, you definitely can overdo it and overcook yourself there. So I think somewhere along there, I think between having a bad breakup, being away from home for the first time, and then just running for the first time, being out of control, like out of my hands, I think I maybe put in the most training ever there, maybe time-wise, and certainly I think effort-wise, it just wasn't translating to performances. And that was coming off, directly off of setting some personal bests, to, just have really no control of it, and mentally just being, kind of, and then we kind of lie to ourselves, and we say we're okay, and that's, in order to tell other people that we're okay. But I think, certainly, and having a good group of friends post this, we've realized that, and that's what was going on. But had a really tough few years transitioning after this whole lull, digging a hole, and not having the right support group around, having great friends out in college out there, great friends, but maybe not the right influences.
Sure.
And then maybe just like the stigma of having mental, social problems right there, with sports, with being, just being a male athlete, whatever it is. There's certainly resources in colleges, free resources to go check out, and even just to talk to someone, talk to, I don't know if it's a psychiatrist or just, some ears that a lot of these school systems have that are free, and certainly useful just at the time as you're a young 20-something. There's no way, that we're raised thinking that's okay to go into. And so, self-help, as a young person, you're just burning the candle at both ends. So some struggles there, and it took a few years, and tried a few different things, like going out and helping as an assistant coach with a college team, and seeing how the head coach there dealt with things, who I already respected, but upon seeing how he interacted, and he navigated things, and pushed his athletes in maybe all the right ways. And then things such as, like, so simple as our athletes during exams, big exam weeks, finals weeks. I don't know if that translates the same over in the UK, but our final exams, we would almost kind of like cancel our practices, have the kids just run on their own, and then and it almost always lines up that final exams are right before big meets, and like conference weekends or championships, and so somehow we'd cancel practice, not meet up, but then the athletes would perform so much better after that. And it took us a try or two to figure that out, but then to have a coach so okay with backing off and taking his hand off of something, and letting these young adults prioritize what their focus is, what they go to these schools to do, and for them to prioritize that, keep their their sanity, and not dig the hole any deeper. For me to maybe translate that into my own philosophy and training since. And so I think along the way there, those, subsequent years, after having, which I think, I'd consider it depression. It's, I guess, depression is maybe not black and white, but more of a gray. So some slight depression there. I think I learned a lot of things, which now I think have birthed some of my best training cycles, where if there is a stressful time, or if there is anything I'm dealing with that I don't let on my sleeve, I go ahead and I'm able to back off and have a day off of training, or a couple of days off of training, and come back full strength mentally. And then your body's just going to count it as rest. It's not gonna know the difference between 70 miles a week on 6 days, or 85 miles a week on 7, you know, it's not going to know it missed that, you know, it's still going to count it as rest, and it's still going to count it as you got the work. So, so some definitely valuable things. And that, I think, you know, unfortunately took some tough mental times, but I think certainly have proven, and have made me really tough through, you know, this marathon training's, not all glamorous, you know, so getting deep into a workout and having a bit of a chip on your shoulder, having, you know, like my college career didn't end glamorously or anything like that. So having that chip on the shoulder in some of my recent training blocks has been great. So trying to turn some mental rough patches into some mental strengths has been, it's been awesome. And I think that's gonna maybe make me a good coach when I return to that aspect. So, and just for self-help has definitely strengthened myself, and talking with friends through things it's been excellent. So
that's unbelievable. Like, thank you for sharing what you've shared there. I know it's not always easy doing this kind of thing, but as you said, the journey that you've been through has actually made you a much stronger and tougher person. And to be able to talk about it in the way you have really shows that you've, you know, journeyed through that well. And so I hope that I was going to say users then, but the people watching this sort of appreciate, you know, where you're coming from and can take those top tips away to help them on their journey, whether that's in running, sport, or just generally in their everyday lives. So thanks very much. Now, Greg, if we move back to yourself, I just wondered if you had any top tips at this time, a little bit similar to Dylan, you know, to stay physically and mentally well whilst we're going through the coronavirus and just beyond as well.
Yeah, I think right now, because everything, I mean, I have no idea what day it is, kind of thing, you know, like.
Yeah,
but
they all merge into one.
Everything, yeah. I do think it's important to stay regimented, and kind of like, obviously behind me is just like my workout calendar, and I do that just to make sure that I kind of stay disciplined, and also just kind of gives me something to, like, some goals, even though there's no events right now to train for, but just like, I don't, it allows like allows some clarity, I guess, in this time. So I think it's important to just kind of stay in tune, and, you know, kind of just stay focused. Yeah, because it is tough right now, but especially right now when you're kind of aimlessly training or running, but just getting an opportunity, if you can, to get outside and taking some fresh air, and you don't even have to like go out for a run, but just go outside for a walk. I think it's really, really important, and don't just stay glued to the TV watching and reading some whatever negative news might be out there, and just kind of getting some fresh air, really.
I think that's really important, to get the fresh air, to get some structure into your day, and to come away from screens as well. I think that's very relevant. But just on the subject of screens, now I've been watching The Tiger King. It's a little bit surreal. It's quite addictive to watch. What are you guys watching at the moment on Netflix during this time? I know we're trying to get away from screens, but it'd be nice to hear what you're digging into.
Well, I think certainly one of the main things about getting away from the screen that Greg mentioned was like the negativity. So, also let me clarify for our international friends, Tiger King doesn't represent us. So that's important clarification. But I certainly think that keeping the positivity. So I've gotten into Community, which is a series which is absolutely silly and ridiculous, and it maybe just highlights the importance of group and friends in just like a fun, silly. It's almost like The Office, but based in like a college setting. But it's just absolutely silly, and I think that's helped to lighten the mood. And it's just like 20-minute episodes that just that lift your day up and set the mood right. If you start the day or end the day like that, it certainly helps, I think, with the mental space.
What about you, Greg?
I guess this will play along the mental health thing. So I believe in like my apartment, for example, or your home, making it like your sanctuary. You're there, especially now we spend more time here than ever. So I think it's really important to just like make it feel like home, make it feel relaxed, make it so you have a clear mind, there's less clutter. So I've been watching a lot of shows on like building things, home remodeling, gardening.
Cooking
So
show.
I've been doing a lot of like at home. I built like this garden box, you know, like, so there's like a bunch of things I'm using my time to construct things. Also, Marie Kondo my apartment and clear out a lot of things. So that is what's going on in my life.
Perfect.
Especially with the guys next door constantly building that apartment that you've been telling me about. It's a real joy for you at the moment, right?
Yeah, it's inspiring.
Oh man, did you guys watch any of the Last Dance on Michael Jordan and the Bulls?
I've seen. I think I've seen the first couple of episodes. I think it was himself, and then is it Pippin that they were talking about? Yeah, and man,
it's awesome.
I will say this. So I watched The Last Dance and Westworld. Those are the two shows that I'm addicted to.
It's good.
And that's
That's a good shout. Yeah, the Michael Jordan stuff that I have watched the first couple of episodes were incredibly inspiring. I've not watched Westworld yet. I am keen to watch. There's a documentary. I'm not sure if it's just on BBC in the UK, but on one of our boxers called Tyson Fury. Yeah. So very inspiring. Say that again.
I'll watch that. Gypsy King.
yeah, man, he's class.
Tyson Fury. Yep.
Yeah. And then also Conor McGregor as well, the Irish UFC fighter.
Yep. Yeah, Notorious. That's also very inspirational. I think all us athletes can kind of try to emulate some of these mental spaces, and that even just watching, it's got to rub off a little bit and take away the positives and some of that confidence, which is sometimes like it's hard to build yourself. If you kind of watch and you emulate some of these guys, it certainly helps. And both of those two guys, you know, ultimate confidence, which then manifested in performance. So I agree.
Yeah, no, it's so good. Now, just to finish, to come into land, if you like, could you tell us your social media handles and websites and so on? Now, I've spotted probably about 2 minutes into this video that Dylan has been quite clever and put his social media handle in his name for the whole thing.
There it is.
Which is spot on. So if you haven't spotted it already, it's there.
Yeah.
But where else can people support you, Dylan? And then if we go on to Greg.
Yeah, so I put it down there and spelled it out, AMARXSON, but that'll be on Instagram. That's where I'm most present. It's kind of having this new level of performance. I'm probably going to have to branch out a bit more, but that's going to be the most common place to find me, and try to keep a good, lighthearted time on Instagram. And so that's, definitely give it a follow, and anyone that has questions, reach out. And I've gone through some things, not ultimate expert, but definitely can share some things with you. If you guys have any questions, slide in the DMs. Or anytime you're in town, come out to Milestone, and I'm sure Greg will plug that.
On to you, Greg.
Just like Dylan, mostly Instagram is where we post a lot of information, and then Facebook, which Facebook we tend to use as more of like true information. It can be anything from like workouts to like, I don't know, really good running articles or just really offbeat stuff too. And then Instagram, we don't tend to take ourselves too seriously. So a lot of times it's just information of different events we're doing. Currently, so we have a store dog. Her name is China, this tiny little Boston Terrier, and she's 16. And everyone is always concerned about her. So at the moment, I typically will just post a photo of whatever she's doing at that moment to ensure everyone that she's still alive. And also just to keep things lighthearted. So usually I do a lot more stuff, information, but right now it's mostly dogs. So if you like Boston Terriers, like old Boston Terriers, our Instagram milestone running is what you want. And eventually we'll have a YouTube channel. We're working on that right now too. So, but right now, Facebook, Instagram.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much for joining me today, guys. I've really appreciated you chatting for the IanTriathlete YouTube channel, and for the sport and mental health series as well. That's been really key, and it's been really great to hear about your story, Dylan, and how you got to where you are, and Greg also about Milestone Running and the amazing community that you've created out there. And I'm very much looking forward to visiting you guys and grabbing an ale and an ice cream and hopefully going on a run, but maybe not in that order.
Yes. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Ian.
It's a pleasure.
Awesome.
Now, guys, I want to thank you for joining us. Stay tuned. There's going to be more episodes coming up. For now, if you can pop down to the subscribe button and hit that now, you're going to see more great interviews like this. Also, like the video, and remember to follow me via the @IanTriathlete handle on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, here on YouTube. Thanks, guys. Take care.